less likely it is to happen, that people are aware of the effects of dumping tires and toilets and construction debris off the side of a river, because it affects our local water quality in the city of Gary and trickles on down. You know how big the Calumet River is. It goes straight into Illinois and then on through. These spaces are valuable, and they need attention and love and care, and they need to be protected and conserved just as much as any other green space in any other city. Years past, I think it's been abused, misused, lots of efforts have gone into cleaning it up, and I'm not sure how well the water quality is today, but I think it's important that we all realize that it's a river that affects both Illinois and Indiana, and it runs through even neighborhoods of Gary, and I think it's important that we understand what affects it. Industry affects it. People just really need to know about what's out there, what's around us, and what we're capable of accessing. And it's all about accessibility. I stress the importance of accessibility along the Greenling Trail. There's no way that you could get down to the Calumet River, for instance, because the brush gets so high. And so, going to the Parks Board meetings, green infrastructure meetings for the city of Gary, being a representative, of green space, equity is what's important to me. And I think being the face, the messenger, and being that face of a Gary resident is important, because then it says that there is someone who cares, and there are people who care, that we have access to these green spaces and the riverbank, and all the things that we can do outdoors in these green spaces. It's not limited. And though we are industrial, that does cause, a bit of, a slack in accessibility, and whether or not even people want to go fishing as a sport, yes, but to fish and provide, for a sustainable measure, like, feeding your family, there's concerns there, because the Calumet River has had historically been, very polluted at some points, even though it's better now, and the sludge has been cleaned up quite a bit, but still, we've got a lot of work to do.
Where we were was what we call the Indiana Harbor Shipping Canal, on the southern branch of it that links the Indiana Harbor Shipping Canal to the Grand Calumet River system that runs through here. Now, if you know anything about the Indiana Harbor Shipping Canal and the Grand Calumet system, this is considered there's 43 areas of concern in the Great Lakes region that they determined in the early 1980s that were on the list of the most highly contaminated bodies of water on the Great Lakes region. The Indiana Harbor Shipping Canal and the Grand Calumet River are the only body of water that failed every, what they called 14 beneficial uses. This is considered the most contaminated body of water in America.
For the times that we sampled this summer, it has been fairly high with E. coli anyway. So before, when we were in a low rain level, rain can have two effects, right? So rain can dilute things. If it's a high concentration already in the water, it could potentially dilute it, because rainwater doesn't have anything, but also because of runoff, it can pull all the stuff off the land, can kind of force groundwater through. If it's a septic area, it may force some of that leach field effluents more quickly into the river. And that's what we saw this summer, was that it was fairly high when we were in a dry spell, and it got even higher immediately following the rain. So basically, if you know about the water quality, ambient water quality, or recreational criteria, you can safely have up to not for drinking, of course, that should be 0 always, but for swimming in or boating and things like that, you can have 235 E. coli per 100 milliliters of water. So, you know, a thing about 100 milliliters is like not even like a half a can of Coke or something like that. You know, it's not much water, but you can have 235 E. coli in there. So what we were measuring was, you know, over more like 4,000 after the rain. So, it's exceeding by a pretty good margin, you know, what we would consider to be safe to interact with.
I just wasn't sure I heard you correctly. Duck our heads. Right up here is where that dude found that live grenade.
But in 1920, the city of Gary created Riverside Park, which was along the little Calumet River. That later changed to Gleason Park, the park we know today. But from the get-go, it was a segregated park. So we had North Gleason on the north side of the river, and South Gleason on the south side of the river. And they built this building in 1941 as part of an upgrade, obviously. And again, that was still paid for by the city. It was a little lesser than they expected. They built the building even though it was budgeted for heat, but they didn't include the heat. So just one example of giving very much a lesser amenity to African American residents of Gary compared to the white residents. And it was lesser, but it became a point of pride for the Black community. Just like parks are supposed to do, it was a place of a respite from the bustling city. So we know conditions weren't great in cities at that time. So getting the chance to come down along the river, they had a walkway, a strollway along the river. So the river was always this racial boundary. It was the dividing line, which is now reinforced by the interstate. Conditions outside of the planned section of Gary, the squalor, the unplanned communities, public water, sewer. So the conditions were pretty bad. So having a place to escape along the river was powerful.
My name is Jeffrey Smith, and I am one of the co-owners of J&M Excursions. And of course, we specialize in renting out kayaks, canoes, and other types of light watercraft right here on the beautiful Marquette Park Lagoon in Gary, Indiana. You know, I grew up out here. I grew up in Miller. I live right not far from here, and I grew up and I enjoyed the lagoon with my parents, with my friends. We used to fish here. We used to come out here and catch bugs and lizards and things like that. So I wanted to get back to doing it. And during the pandemic, McKinney and I, you know, we found ourselves like everybody else, not able to do anything. And one of the things that they were talking about was about getting outside. And it was an opportunity. I was getting into my fishing. I'm an avid fisherman. Now, I haven't done that much as this year because we've been doing other stuff. But as I was getting outside, I started looking at the new trend of fishing kayaks. People were starting to do that. And I started to think about it. And then McKinney and I got together and we said, you know, let's go out here and get that first kayak just for us because we wanted to get out on the water. And then as we started to come out and do stuff, people started asking us questions. And we started to see more and more people that were gathering around out here. And so we thought to ourselves, and it wasn't like we were sitting out here just thinking about starting a business or doing things like that. It was about filling a need. And we felt that what better way to showcase a gym in beautiful Gary, Indiana, than by coming out here showing how you can recreate on here. We always think about other areas of where you go for recreation. We wanted to do it here. And we really started to kind of say, you know what, this is something we want to do going forward. We want to be part of the ecotourism boom that we believe that this area is happening. And as you look on a Sunday in September, even after Labor Day, these waters and this nature area is still being occupied by residents and then people from the outside. So it looks like we might have been onto something. People would say, why would you fish why would you go and fish in that water? And I would argue, just from a little bit of background, is that these waters, and I work very closely with the Little Calumet River Basin Authority, so I get an opportunity to learn about the flowing and just, which channels kind of, turn into other ones. And I'll tell you, I've gotten some healthy fish out of here. I haven't eaten any, but I know people that have. And I've looked at the quality because I'm an aquarist by hobby. And so I looked at the quality of fish I was catching and I was impressed. I mean, obviously there are some concerns about toxins and things of that nature, but we haven't found that. And, outside of the lily pad blooms and things of that nature, and I think sometimes people might mistake that as trashy and things like that, I would say that the vegetation that you do see right around the edges is a sign that there is life in this water and it's prospering.
Hello, my name is McKinney Dilworth and I am a co-owner of J&M Excursions, located right here in the beautiful city of Gary, Indiana, Northwest Indiana. J&M Excursions just kind of organically grew out of our COVID creativity sessions. We were like, you know what? We really want to just get out of the house, and enjoy how beautiful, look at the scenery here. You would think you were somewhere else. We were also able to employ some young people this summer through this. We think that's a great experience to make sure that the youth of the city of Gary get an opportunity to really indulge and engage in the waterways and just the beautiful environment here. So usually when we're getting our reservations, we're dealing with folks who are just enthusiastic about the notion of getting on the water. So Jeffrey, he encountered more of people saying things like that. We really got more questions of how deep is the lagoon? I can't swim. Can you give me a life jacket? That type of thing. People were just really, really eager to get out on the waterways. And so we would definitely, we have a brochure where we have it laid out about, how deep the water is. We address the toxicity of it or even the aesthetic value of the waters, but for the most part, people are a lot more vested in the potential experience that they're going to have. The other thing is, being that we're both African American, we attracted a number of people of color wanting to kayak for the first time. and not even giving it a thought beforehand. And so we're very proud of that because water is for us all. The environment is for everyone, and it's been an incredibly gathering point. You know, talk about inclusion, diversity, and equity. Let's start with the kayak. Let's start with nature because I am a big proponent of let's look at nature and really enjoy and appreciate just the natural diversity, so that can be a backdrop or a context for really practicing, you know, human diversity.